This story happened some time ago. I was home alone. I was knitting, a great way to pass the time when your computer is broken. So I was sitting there when I heard someone knocking on my window. It was really weird because I live on the 6th floor and you have to be Spider-Man to climb up onto the balcony. It gave me goosebumps. I was just doing that when suddenly something happened, and about a minute later the knocking repeated, and I asked if it was my neighbor. I was too scared to move and made excuses. I waited in silence for 2 minutes. What if it was just my imagination? What if it was just a joke? After a while, I resumed knitting and picked up my headphones. The headphones were on the table next to the couch. As soon as I touched them, there was a loud crack of glass, and I shrieked. With my feet down on the couch, I stared fearfully at the curtained window. I couldn't see what was going on behind it the whole time. Honestly, I didn't want to look. I listened and realized that something was rustling behind the back of the couch. Then I felt that the house was getting cold. Of course, like in a horror movie, the lights went out. The rustling behind my back continued. It seemed like there were thousands of tiny paws running across the ceiling. I cried at the sound of those awful footsteps. Then the glass struck again. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again. It was as if there was some kind of rhythm. The sound of stomping continued. There was another noise behind me. But it didn't make me angry. Fear took over. Suddenly someone pulled my hair. From the side, I saw my hair. It was quite long, being thrown over the couch. It hurt, and I screamed. The noise didn't stop. I was going crazy. It hurt so bad, and I was screaming as hard as I could. And it felt like someone was hitting the window with a baseball bat with all their might. I heard the sound of cracked glass. I knew that the man outside the window was near me and about to fly into the house, and that what was happening around me was his doing. I waited for the final blow. The glass failed, and he flew into the house. I couldn't get out. Something was still standing behind the couch, holding my hair. Tears rained from my eyes. There was one last sound, and the glass shattered. All the sounds seemed to tear my brain apart. I prayed. There was silence. I was stunned. A strand of hair was loose, but I didn't notice it right away. I looked at the window and saw the curtain rising slowly. I could see the silhouette of a man behind it. I thought, there, my dear, it's all over. But the worst was yet to come. I had a strange feeling. I was afraid to look away from the window, for there was still he behind the curtains. I made up my mind, though, and let my eyes go down. And then I saw someone's horrible, filthy hands on my waist. It was like someone was holding me with their fingers interlocked. I realized what I was sitting on. I no longer had the strength to scream. It was as if I was surrounded. I passed out. I woke up in the morning to the phone ringing. The light in the apartment was on. A friend had called, asking how I was. For some reason I answered that everything was fine. We agreed to meet at a cafe to chat. I acted as if nothing had happened. After hanging up the phone, I went to the window. I lifted the curtain. The glass was intact, and the apartment was cleaned, too. Maybe I was overworked. Maybe I hadn't noticed that I'd fallen asleep and couldn't tell the difference between dream and reality. But the facts say otherwise. I woke up crying, and my head hurt a lot, as if I'd really been pulled by my hair. And another thing, when I was vacuuming after that, I found some shards of glass. How am I supposed to stay home? Hello. Many people don't believe in the underworld, nor should they. This story may not seem so scary to some people. When I was 13 years old, my family and I bought an apartment. One day my mom and dad went out to play. I didn't want to go. And after 2 hours had passed, there was a knock on the door. I thought they had finally arrived. I opened it, and there was no one there. No one was there. It was getting dark. I called my mom, but her phone wasn't working, and I called my dad, and it was the same thing. I was a little scared, so I sat down to watch TV. Suddenly, the lights went out. It was 9:14 p.m. It was winter, and it was pitch black, and I was sitting on the couch, shaking with fear. I thought, should I turn on the lights? And about 4 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. When I got to the door, I heard a noise behind me, and when I turned around, it was quiet. I opened the door and there was no one there. I was so scared, I started calling out for my mom and dad. Finally, Mom answered. "Hi, Mom. Where are you?" "I'm scared. Come home." "Son, I'm going to be late." "Okay. I'll see you later." I was surprised. At the word scared, my mom didn't respond at all. When I lit the candle, the flames flickered in different directions, like in a thunderstorm, even though I stopped with the windows closed. This disturbed me. In the blink of an eye, the shadows disappeared and the candle went out. The door opened and closed with more force. There was a loud bang. I couldn't take it anymore and screamed loudly. "Enough," I screamed. Suddenly, everything went silent, complete silence. Without thinking anymore, I ran out of the house and trashed the place. When I landed, I met my mom and dad. They started yelling, "Why is your phone off? I called you 5 times already." I said, "I don't know." "Mom, your cell phone turned itself off, and you said you were going to be late." Mom shook her head and said she didn't say anything like that. Her phone was on. I briefly told her what had happened at the apartment. We decided to go to Grandma's house. We quickly got in the car and looked out the window. We could see a light bulb in the window, but it went on and off as if someone was playing with it. When we got there, we told Grandma everything. Grandma told us that her best friend used to live there, but then she died. And now the house was cursed. Everybody had to get out of there. Then things got better, and in the morning when we went to get our things, we met the neighbors at the door. And they told us that the night before there had been a deafening noise in the house. Dishes were breaking, things were falling, etc. When we went into the house, everything was scattered. We told our neighbors what happened. They helped us gather our things, and we left for another apartment, and nothing happened there. It's nice. Thank you for your attention. Well, to believe or not to believe this story is your right. At the time, I was sick for some unknown reason and did not go to the doctor until Monday. My parents were away and left me home alone, thinking I was an imposter. I felt a little better, but by evening I had a spiking fever. I took a couple of nights lying down and watching TV. My room is in a place where I could hear any movement in the house, and after about an hour of watching, I thought my fever was gone. And then I heard someone slam the outside door. I ran outside to look, but the deadbolt was closed. I didn't suspect anything and went back inside and lay down. About 15 minutes later, I heard footsteps in the house. I wanted to say it was the cat, but the cat was asleep in the chair next to me. Well, and I, of course, panicked. After a while, I calmed down and continued watching TV, but there was nothing interesting, so I started reading a book. After about 15 minutes, I felt the need to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, went inside, and heard a pot rattling in the kitchen. It seemed like it was falling. I thought it was a cat, because I had already learned how to drop it. I came out of the bathroom and looked into the kitchen, but the pot was still there. When I got to my room, the cat was asleep. I shuddered. I lay down on the futon and began to wonder what had happened, when suddenly the door slammed again, and I heard footsteps. I remembered well that the door was bolted and the window was covered with plastic. As I lay there listening, I thought I heard a pot rattling in the kitchen, and then a plate joined it. I ran out of the room and looked around. Absolutely nothing had changed. I ran to my parents' room, grabbed my bat, went to my room, left the door open, and lay under the blanket, huddled against the bat. The noise continued, and it took me a long time to fall asleep, but I soon passed out. In the morning, I woke up at 9:23. The bat was lying on the floor. The cat was asleep next to me, And when he saw that I was awake, he came up to me to cuddle me. Remembering yesterday, I went to the kitchen and found the pot upside down in the middle of the table. But our pot is below table level, in a wall cabinet that is quite far away. Now I'm sitting on the internet trying to figure out what it was. This story really happened. It happened today. My father heard a knock on the door around 12 noon. He was home alone. Thinking he was just imagining things, he knocked again about 10 minutes later and looked through the peephole, but no one was there. I opened the door. There was silence in the stairwell, and I saw a man in black patent leather boots standing by the door. He lifts them up. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Realizing that the boot was made of wood or plastic, from dead, he suddenly put it back on and went out to the stairs. A man in a white coat came down from the top floor, put on his jacket and said, "I am a doctor." My father asked him, "Why are you keeping a dead man's shoes on my doorstep?" He muttered something. "They mixed the apartments," he said. My father noticed something being carried from the first floor. He lived on the second floor, in a black bag. Father went to the window of the front room. There was no elevator in the old Khrushchev 5-story building. My father bowed, turned around, and went home. He said that he did not remember anything else, that he came home and went to bed, but he woke up at 5 a.m. and could not sleep again. In the evening, an acquaintance called and said someone who lived on the first floor had died. My dad didn't sleep, didn't drink, and didn't drink during the day. The man had cancer, and so did my dad. He had a lung removed long ago, just in time. I still have hairs on my head from the horror. What was that about? Why are there shoes on a dead person's doorstep? And why are there shoes on the doorstep of someone who just died? Shoes are supposed to be ordered later, right? Let me tell you that your father is a sane, mentally healthy man.